Hey, what's up? This is Dr. Taylor Krick at the Washington Wellness Center, and we have another great graphic that we'll share on our Instagram, on our Facebook, etc. But it requires a little bit of explanation to it. And so this graphic that you see here, immune reactions to food, that's something that we see so often in practice, and something that has just grown and escalated to be more of a problem. And so many people know some of their sensitivities. Like, I know I'm sensitive to gluten, I know I'm sensitive to dairy, so I want to talk about it real quick. So some of the big ones, and I'll tell you, I just had a lab test come back today that we reviewed with somebody that she had the big ones. But the biggest ones are gluten, dairy, egg, corn, and soy. Okay, those are the biggest food sensitivities. But when you have immune reactions to food, I just want to talk about some of the causes to that. So first off, why is this happening so much more than it used to, or what's leading to the increased food sensitivities? Well, things have changed in the food. So that's what you see at the top of this graphic here. So there's new seeds, there's hybridization of the seeds. There's new chemicals that we haven't been exposed to, chemicals on the food and otherwise, that have just changed our immune reactions. There's GMO, genetic modification of the foods. There's other things in our diet that have changed this. There's a genetic susceptibility. We could put on here, there's leaky gut. Now, you can have food sensitivities in the absence of leaky gut. So that's a common misconception, is you don't always have to have a leaky gut to have overactive dendritic cells, overactive immune cells, or a loss of oral tolerance. That is absolutely possible. There's pesticides that are sprayed on the foods. There's processing that goes into it. That has changed our food system. So when we do a food sensitivity test, first off, what are we measuring? Well, we're not measuring a food allergy. An allergy over here on the right side is what's called an IgE reaction, and that's just the type of immunoglobulin, but you'd go to an allergist and they work exclusively with IgE sensitivity. So that might be like a peanut allergy, where if you eat peanuts, like, you're life-threatening. Or a lot of people have penicillin allergies, or they have pollen or ragweed allergies, and that's an allergy. So that's anaphylaxis, that's your throat swelling shut, that's allergic rhinitis, allergic sinusitis, typical seasonal allergies, hay fever, asthma. That's over here. What we are talking about with food sensitivity testing is a delayed response, an IgG or an IgA sensitivity. And typically with food sensitivity testing, we're talking about an IgG response. So you have a delayed food response, and that can cause diverse reactions, because what it fuels, what it triggers, is inflammation. So what is inflammation? Well, if you have inflammation in your brain, it's depression, it's anxiety, it's brain fog, it's fatigue. If you have inflammation in your joints, it's chronic pain. If you have inflammation at your cells, which all of this happens at a cellular level, it's going to slow down your metabolism, which is also going to lead to brain fog and fatigue and depression and all these other things. If you have inflammation, let's say like a gluten sensitivity, it can often present itself through the skin. So it might be skin reactions, it might be increased mucus congestion. So when we do something like a food sensitivity test, that's what we're measuring. And food sensitivities can change. It doesn't always mean that you have a leaky gut, but it means that right then, at that time in your life, those foods are triggering more and more inflammation. So I mentioned earlier that we just went over a food sensitivity panel with somebody today, and I'll just repeat some of those things. So her highest were gluten, dairy, and eggs, and then soy was another high one. And then she had members of the nightshade family, like bell peppers and chili peppers. She didn't have all of them show up, but I said, we might want to consider nightshades as a problem food group. And then she also had bean agglutinins, which is a lectin. So we need to look at lectins. Now, she also on there, she had broccoli. So not something that people would think of as a bad food, but she was sensitive to broccoli. She had honey on her sensitivity list. She had oranges, and she had pineapple. And she said what many people say. She said, this looks like everything that I eat. And that's the point, is when your body loses oral tolerance to the same foods all the time, it develops sensitivities to those foods. So you need to rotate your diet. You need a diet with a lot of fiber variety. You need a diet with just a lot of variety in general. But what we're going to do with her is remove those foods, support her immune tolerance, support her gut health, and then reintroduce those to see how she's doing down the road. But I hope that helps explain this graphic a little bit more, because there's all these things that play into immune reactions. A lot of people have had food sensitivity testing and they're just told, cut these foods out and that's all you need to do. That is not all you need to do. And all you're going to get is you're going to develop new sensitivities to new foods if you don't learn some of these principles of gut healing, of variety and variation, of pulling out the foods that are triggering you right now, but then decreasing the immune reactivity and supporting oral tolerance in supporting leaky gut and gut healing as well is really the solution long term. The food sensitivity testing just tells us what's fueling inflammation right now, which is really, really important and really, really relevant.